My sister tried to ban me from my own wedding date. Not because of an emergency, because she wanted it. There are families where the eldest daughter turns every milestone into a project plan, complete with color codes, sign-offs, and implied consequences. In that system, the younger one survives by being stubborn enough to hold ground and soft enough to still hope for applause. She was 28, a marketing assistant who treated deadlines like armor and feelings like a stray cat that kept coming back. You've seen this play out. Control dresses up as tradition, pressure is renamed family, and the person who asks for boundaries gets framed as difficult. I booked Lowndes Grove in Charleston for October 19th, Peak Light Saturday, Live Oaks and River Breeze, deposit paid the same afternoon. My fiancé, Evan, toasted with grocery store Prosecco on our balcony, while the Ravenel Bridge glowed in the distance. I texted the family group, date locked, venue set, cannot believe it. You assume a contract means it's yours. You assume wrong when someone else has built a life on being first, best, and loudest. Within 10 minutes, the typing bubbles multiplied like a storm line on radar. Brooke, 31, lifestyle marketer turned part-time influencer, announced that October 19th had always been her date. Not written anywhere, not booked, just hers in theory because it lined up with Grandma's old anniversary and a brand partnership she might land if she could promise a fall Saturday. She said my pick fractured the family narrative. She floated alternatives, a Sunday brunch wedding, a December date that would photograph cozy, anything that moved me out of her lane. You hear that and think, no one actually says stuff like that. They do. They just wrap it in pretty words. My phone lit up with individual texts from Mom and Dad. Be flexible. Don't make this a fight. You know how your sister gets. Meanwhile, Brooke started a poll, actual Google form, titled, Best Wedding Weekend for Our Family, listing my date as conflict and her preferred date as optimal. She scheduled a family meeting at Mom's house for Saturday, subject line, wedding dates, final decision. The invite popped onto my calendar without my consent. I stared at it, shoulders tight, and understood the rule I'd been dodging since childhood. If you don't protect what's yours, someone else will manage it for you. In families like ours, the firstborn assumes ritual authority, holidays, announcements, the order of toasts, while the younger one becomes a heat sink for every unsecured emotion. Parents think they're easing conflict when they ask the easygoing kid to flex. They're actually rewarding the one who weaponizes urgency. If you've ever been the reasonable one, you know the trap. Your calm becomes the tool used to move you. I prepared like it was a client pitch. I pulled the venue contract, highlighted, non-refundable, added vendor holds, and printed a one-page budget with cancellation fees in bold. I called Lowndes Grove to confirm the reservation sat under my name and Evan's, not the family. I made a folder labeled October 19th, final and tucked in schedules, insurance certs, even the courtesy block email from the hotel on East Bay. When anxiety wanted to spiral, I gave it tasks. Call the florist, check the DJ rider, set reminders. Evan watched me stack papers and said, calm and even, we're not changing a federal holiday. It wasn't a holiday, but I got what he meant. Brooke posted an Instagram story that afternoon, flat lay of a linen swatch, a pumpkin-colored ribbon, pole sticker asking, which fall palette? The caption said, manifesting October 19th. People said hard eyes. Mom called, voice hushed like she was in a church lobby. She asked me to hold space for Brooke's vision. She said the family could make it right on costs if I moved to Sunday. She used words like harmony and concession, the soft vocabulary of pressure. Dad texted a thumbs up to both of us, trying to be neutral and landing exactly nowhere. It's funny how neutrality always leans toward the loudest person. Saturday, I drove to West Ashley for the meeting. Mom had set out sweet tea and a cheese board like snacks could oil institutional gears. The dining room was staged with 2 stacks, my folder, and a printed slide deck Brooke had titled, Legacy Planning, Wedding Season. She'd added clip art of magnolias. Dad wore a golf shirt tucked in too tight, performing steadiness. Evan sat beside me, not speaking unless needed, which is its own kind of presence. I recognized the choreography. Assign seats without saying so, use hospitality to imply agreement, then call for reason. Brooke started with her deck. She talked about Grandma's anniversary and narrative cohesion. She said her brand partners were interested in a fall Southern wedding concept, and timing mattered. She floated a one-for-one swap. I could take her tentative spring weekend at a smaller venue she'd outgrown. She called it equitable redistribution. I let her words stack like blocks. Then I set my folder on the table and slid the contract to the center so everyone could see the date in 12-point font, black and unromantic. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't perform. I just said, "This is ours," and waited for the rattle of the machine to either stop or show me its next lever. Family meetings are polite theater. Power sits in posture, in whoever controls the agenda, and how quickly someone reaches for the handouts. The eldest child's language is policy. The younger learns to use silence and paper. If you grew up smoothing crises, you know the move. Hold your ground without giving them a new opening. I kept my hands flat on the table and let the contract sit between us like a brick. Mom went first, softening nouns. "This is a beautiful document," she said, like compliments could dissolve legalities. Dad cleared his throat and suggested the family could absorb losses if we changed dates, as if money could replace time, vendors, and a plan that actually fit our lives. Brooke leaned forward, eyes bright with purpose. She wanted alignment with heritage, a phrase that means whatever the loudest person needs it to mean. Then she said the quiet part. A sponsor was watching her fall content series and Q4 placements depend on October synergy. That's when I asked the simplest question. "Are you engaged?" I didn't lace it with judgment, just air and words. There was a beat. She looked at Mom, then at Dad, like engagement might be a group project. "It's in progress," she said. "Connor and I have talked dates. He's planning something Labor Day." Talk dates, planning something. She needed a future to act like a past. Brands love a storyline. Families get drafted into it. You may think the answer there is kindness, because it sounds tender to step aside for someone's dream. But kindness that requires self-erasure isn't kindness. It's compliance. I offered what I could offer. "You can host the Friday welcome dinner," I said. "Take every photo you want. I'll even share the color palette. But the ceremony is Saturday," she countered with, "co-headline the weekend," a phrase so absurd I almost laughed. 2 brides, 1 date, sister synergy. I said no, because there's a difference between sharing and disappearing. The room stretched thin. Mom talked about Grandma's anniversary again. Dad stared at the table grain. Evan reached for my folder and slid it back to my side like closing a book. I opened my laptop and pulled up the email draft I'd built when I couldn't sleep. Save the date, hotel block, simple RSVP link. You lock a door by turning the deadbolt, not by arguing about the hallway. I read it once, added the line everyone needed to see, Saturday, October 19th, Charleston, and clicked send. Paperless post chirped. Phones buzzed in the room. The decision stopped being a debate and became a calendar fact. Brooke's jaw set. "If you do this," she said, "I'll plan a family heritage gala the same night. People will have to choose." That was her power play. Split the guest list and make absence look like disloyalty. Evan didn't look up. "We'll see you at the welcome dinner," he said, even and steady. I gathered my folder, the room's temperature shifting, and felt the first quiet click of my life reshaping around a line I finally drew. You think a save the date ends the argument. In certain families, it only moves the conflict into logistics. Control rarely yells. It emails, schedules, and CCs people you love. The peacemaker in you wants to smooth it. The adult in you learns to lock doors. Boundary work looks boring from the outside until you don't do it and your life gets managed for you. The fallout arrived in pings. Ants texted, "Love you both," like neutrality could be a blanket. Brooke posted a pastel graphic. "Family Heritage Gala, October 19th. No venue listed, just a link to register interest." That's the play. Announce before you have anything, then dare people to walk it back. I didn't reply publicly. I sent guests a calm note with hotel info, Friday welcome details, and the Saturday timeline. Clarity is not aggression, it's care. Vendors started flagging things. May from Magnolia and Vine forwarded an email where Brooke asked about moving the main install to Sunday for cohesion. Kendra at the Harbor House said someone had called to rename our room block. Family Gala. It wasn't illegal. It was pressure through paperwork. You learn fast in marketing that access points are everywhere, so you close them. I added passwords to every contract, set a single email for vendor changes, and asked each partner to require the phrase we chose. It felt clinical, which is what protection often is. Evan suggested I text Connor, not to triangulate, but to remove mystery. Hey, heads up on chatter. I wrote. He called instead. He sounded decent and a little blindsided. He hadn't proposed yet. He was planning something for Labor Day. His parents were tied up October 19th with a hospital fundraiser. I didn't know about a gala, he said. That's a small reveal with a big ripple. If the storyline is real, its pieces tend to know each other. When they don't, you're looking at branding, not a plan. Mom and Dad came by that night with a soft compromise. Sunday ceremony, shared rentals. Keep the peace. Parents of a powerful eldest often mistake redistributing the younger child's plans for fairness. I thanked them, repeated my Friday offer, and stuck to Saturday. I filed the city's noise permit approval, watched an alert pop from the hotel about another attempted change, and saw it auto-blocked by the password I'd set. For the first time all week, the date felt less like a wish and more like a lock. Escalation in families like ours doesn't shout, it curates. The Heritage Gala page grew from a pastel square into a "coming soon" site with a cursive logo and a form that asked guests to pledge attendance. That word does work. Pledge implies duty, not choice. If you've ever had your joy turned into a referendum, you know the instinct to explain, defend, apologize, resist it. Clarity beats persuasion. I kept sending simple, factual updates. Transportation times, dress code, the Friday dinner I was happy to share. The more ordinary I kept the plan, the less oxygen the spectacle got. When leverage hides behind tradition, facts help. I called Grandma. She didn't need a script. She remembered the details like spices in a recipe. Their anniversary had been October 12th, a Tuesday that year, celebrated every year on whatever day it fell. She laughed when I said 19. Your granddad hated crowds on weekends, she said. It wasn't a gotcha, it was a pin in a map. After we hung up, I scanned her old announcement from Mom's album, yellowed paper, October 12th, St. Michael's, and saved it. I wasn't going to weaponize it. I used it to orient the room. In the family chat I wrote, "We'll toast Grandma and Granddad at the Friday dinner. Perfect timing with their October 12th date." I dropped the scam like a leaf, not a hammer. Dad texted a quiet, "Nice find." Mom said a heart, then nothing else. That's how shifts start. Small acknowledgments that break the aura of inevitability around the loudest plan. Brooke pivoted. She emailed from a new address with a subject line that read, "Creative IP conflict, urgent, CC and Gia, consultant, who framed our palette and schedule as overlapping a sister-led content series. The tone mimicked legal, all vibe, and no statute. It asked us to refrain from using fall heritage motifs. You've seen this tactic in marketing. Claim a concept, bank on intimidation." I replied once, "Our contracts stand. Kindly direct future notes to our vendor's shared inbox." Then I stopped engaging. Boundary, not performance. Real-world anchors kept lining up. The Harbor House manager called to thank me for tightening the block. Someone had tried again to rename it Gala. He also mentioned their ballroom was already sold that night to the hospital foundation. I wrote down the detail and let it sit. The story Brooke was selling had no room reserved in the actual city. Meanwhile, our proofs arrived from the printer. Clean white invitations with a small heron embossed at the top. I sat at our kitchen table, addressed envelopes in batches of 10, and pressed stamps like tiny decisions. This is the unromantic part of agency. You pick a date, you pay deposits, you lick envelopes. Each small act said the same thing out loud. October 19th belonged to us. People who live on control escalate by optics. They inflate language, multiply touch points, and try to turn choices into referendums. If you've ever been cast as the flexible one, you know the fix. Reduce angles. I published a clean wedding site with only what guests needed. Times, addresses, rideshare codes. I added an authorized contacts line to every vendor agreement and set my email as the single channel. We scheduled our license appointment downtown and booked shuttles, so no one could claim transportation chaos as a reason to improvise the plan. Boring choices are powerful. They leave showmanship with nowhere to land. The venue called 2 mornings later. Their coordinator, Hallie, said someone had asked to transfer the family deposit to a heritage gala. She didn't have to name Brooke. I drove to Lowndes Grove, sat under a fan in her office, and signed an addendum. No changes without my written approval. No alternate events using our rentals on Saturday. No content shoots on the grounds during our load-in. It felt clinical because protection often is. Archetypally, the eldest flexes authority. The younger learn systems. You don't out-argue a brand. You out-paper it. A different thread pulled. Connor's mom called from a hospital office line. She sounded kind and tired, the way people sound when their work is real. Their foundation gala had been on the calendar for months. October 19th, Harbor House Ballroom. Sold out. She apologized for any confusion and said they'd love to see Connor and Brooke at their table Friday night if we were hosting a family dinner. The subtext was gentle but clear. There was no empty ballroom for a parallel spectacle, and the people Brooke needed to impress were already committed elsewhere. Information can be a pressure release. It can also be a mirror. Brooke pivoted. She posted, "Venue reveal soon," and took it down an hour later. Mom sent a group text about 2 special events the same weekend, trying to fold contradiction into harmony. I offered Brooke the Friday toast again, this time in writing, and asked to meet for coffee. We sat at a shop on King Street, back table, lemon water sweating on napkins. I kept it short. "Friday is yours to script. Saturday is our wedding. Please stop contacting vendors." She called it punitive. I called it specific. People who rely on soft words hate hard nouns. "I'll think about it," she said, which usually means stall until something moves. Things moved without her. Invitations started landing. RSVPs trickled in from coworkers, cousins, a college roommate who still calls Charleston Chucktown. The numbers settled into a shape that looked like a wedding, not a debate. Then 2 emails hit within minutes. Aunt Mo declined with a cheerful note about supporting the gala, which stung less than I expected because it told the truth. Right after, Grandma's reply arrived. "Can't wait to dance on Saturday. I'll bring the recipe box for Friday." One more ping followed, small and heavy. Brooke RSVP'd. "Friday only?" It wasn't a threat or a speech. It was a line on a form, and it told me exactly what I had to plan for next. Labor Day came and, right on cue, the post hit. Brooke and Connor on a pier, sunset, ring held to the camera. The caption said, "She said yes. October 19th, energy forever." Engagement creates oxygen. Families inhale it and reorganize. Parents who preach fairness often pivot to honor both without naming the cost. If you've lived in that orbit, you know the counter move. Make the container so clear that performance has nowhere to land. I didn't argue with the post. I updated the Friday dinner run-of show, because structure is how you protect joy. Welcome dinners look casual, but the ones that hold shape have choreography. I booked a private room on East Bay, prepaid the menu, and put the mic in the hands of a friend who isn't swayed by volume. The schedule was printed on the place cards. Grandma's toast first, then a 5-minute congratulations for Brooke and Connor, then open mingling. I sent a line to our guests. "No announcements tonight. Save those for your own events." It wasn't snark. It was guardrails. We set up a photo corner so the ring could get its spotlight without turning the whole room into a backdrop. I confirmed with the manager that no outside content crew would rearrange furniture. Boring, specific kind. Friday arrived humid and golden. People drifted in wearing linen and expectations. Brooke entered with a small entourage and a ring light tucked under her arm. She moved like a person used to owning rooms. The archetype was textbook, eldest as MC, narrative as leverage. But rooms obey the plan on the wall. Our friend opened exactly at 7, thanked everyone, pointed to the schedule like a flight attendant. Grandma stood, steady, funny, grounding, and told the story of her Tuesday church wedding because Grandpa took weekend shifts, so other families could have Saturdays. It landed like cool water. History replaced branding. The clatter of forks softened. You could feel the air recalibrate around something real. Brooke got her 5 minutes. She held up her hand, sparkles catching the pendant lights, and thanked everyone. Then she started into, "We'll do a date reveal soon," voice rising toward a crescendo. Our MC stepped in smoothly with a clap and a, "Can't wait to celebrate you two. Tonight we're here to welcome out-of-towners." Not a slap, not a fight, just a lane marker. If you've ever watched a stage shift under good facilitation, you know how ordinary it looks. Control hates ordinary because it can't feed on it. After dessert, Connor found me by the water station. He looked sheepish and decent. "We'll be at the hospital gala tomorrow," he said, almost apologizing. "Her mom wants photos with the board." I nodded. "Your seats will be there if you change your mind." No sarcasm, no bait. Brooke approached a minute later, eyes scanning for a reaction she could work. I didn't give her one. We hugged quick. She smelled like hairspray and effort. Evan and I drove home with the windows cracked, place cards stacked on the back seat. The city was loud in a friendly way, buses, laughter, dishes clinking through open doors. Saturday felt simple in my chest for the first time in weeks. Guests, vows, dinner, dancing. Not a debate. A day. Wedding days run on checklists. Control hates checklists because they pin time to the wall. The archetype shifts here. The eldest loses power when witnesses and clocks do the refereeing. The younger stops smoothing and starts directing. Saturday morning looked ordinary. Oatmeal, coffee, a group text to bridesmaids that said, "On time is kind." Evan squeezed my hand, kissed my forehead, then left to meet the groomsmen and the shuttle. Ordinary is underrated. You think you want fireworks. You actually want a plan that works. The first wobble came by email at 9:12 a.m. Our DJ forwarded a family calendar update, moving the ceremony to 6:30 and the first dance to 10. The address line said, "Heritage Events." Ambiguity is a saboteur's favorite tool. I replied with the passphrase we'd set, attached the schedule he already had, and CC'd Hallie at the venue. 1 minute later he wrote back, "Got it," ignoring. That's the thing about systems. You don't need speeches. If you built a door only you can open. I added a calm note to our wedding site. "Ceremony at 4:30 as planned," and shut the laptop. 10 minutes later, cousin started forwarding a text from an unknown number. "Venue change due to weather, Harbor House." Charleston was sunny. A hospital gala banner already hung on Harbor House's entrance, exactly where I knew it would be. "You've seen this tactic. Announce chaos, make people choose." I replied once to the group with a pin to Lowndes Grove, reminded everyone about the shuttles, and left it there. The welcome bags we dropped at the hotel had printed cards with addresses. Boring paper one. Hallie texted that the gate would remain closed to outside shoots. Small sentence, big exhale. Mom called from her car. "Brooke might swing by for a toast before gala photos," she said, careful voice. "She wants a mic for 5 minutes." The old me would have tried to invent a compromise. The adult me named the lane. "No open mic today," I said. "If she comes, we'll hug her and take a picture by the photo corner." Kind doesn't mean porous. If you've been the peacekeeper, you know that sentence costs less than the alternative. By noon, hair and makeup clicked along like a train schedule. Grandma arrived in flats and handed me a 10-recipe box, the same one she'd promised. Friday was perfect. She said, "Today is yours." The archetype I'd studied all month, the younger as quiet executor, finally felt real in my own body. Evan sent a selfie from the dock with his best man, 2 crooked boutonnieres, and a caption that just said, "Soon." At 3, Hallie walked us through the lineup, radios crackling, staff closing the river gate. Through the fence, I saw a car roll past with a ring light propped in the back seat, then keep going toward town. No drama, just motion. At 4:28, the quartet started the processional. The air felt like late afternoon should. My dad offered his arm, unsure but game, and I took it. If you've ever waited for permission to own your life, you know the quiet that follows when you finally stop waiting. The doors opened. I stepped forward, not into a fight, but into the day I had kept simple on purpose. Ceremonies look simple because they're engineered. Witnesses and clocks did the heavy lifting. My job was to stand still and say the words. The officiant kept it clean. No improvisation, no open mic. Evan's hands were steady. Vows landed like plain promises, the kind that survive Tuesdays. If you've ever lived as the family's buffer, you know how radical it feels to choose ordinary and let it carry you. Ring, sign, applause. No thunder, just a solid click in the day where a fight might have been. Cocktail hour tested the guardrails. Our MC stuck to the script. Staff guided people toward the photo corner and the bar instead of a stage that didn't exist. At 5:12, a white SUV slowed by the gate. I saw a ring light in the back and my sister in a cream dress that read more press than guest. Hallie met them with the same smile she'd given me at the walkthrough and pointed to the sign, private event, authorized vendors only. I walked over because kindness is not surrender, it's clarity. We hugged fast, careful not to snag fabric. "Congrats," she said, eyes darting past me. 2 minutes on the mic? I shook my head. "No mic today. We can take a photo by the Oaks." She hesitated, checked the time, glanced at Connor. They had a red carpet at the Harbor House. We snapped one quick picture on my phone. No ring light, no script. Then she left in a wave of perfume and agenda. No scene, just motion. Rooms take cues. When the attempted spectacle drove off, the crowd turned back to what was in front of them. Pimento bites, iced tea, the river under late light. Grandma set her recipe box on the guest book table like it had always belonged there. Dad asked the band about a song from college, and then actually danced with Mom, both of them lighter than they'd been in weeks. The timeline hit its marks. First dance at 7:15, cake at 8, shuttle at 10:30. Control likes fog, checklists make weather. People relax because the day told them how. Small messages folded in around the music. Aunt Mo texted a selfie in a sequin dress from the hospital gala, glass raised. "Proud of you. Saved me cake." Connor sent a simple, "Congrats, Friday was lovely." Mom squeezed my hand near the bar and whispered, "You did good," like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to say it yet, and said it anyway. If you've navigated an eldest child orbit, you recognize the shift. The authority moved from volume to facts on the ground. We closed the night under cafe lights, shoes off, the river black and calm. I felt more relieved than giddy, which is its own kind of joy. The DJ packed up without a single improvisation. The shuttle drivers ticked names off a list, and Hallie stacked our centerpieces like inventory. Control had run out of angles. The day had none left to offer. I knew the work wasn't over. Families don't rewrite themselves in one event, but the date was ours in the only way that matters. It happened, on time, witnessed. Tomorrow, I'd return rentals and send thank yous. Tonight, I held Evan's hand and let the quiet land. Sunday looked like cleanup and relief. We boxed centerpieces, signed vendor tips, and hauled a trunk of leftover welcome bags to my car. The day after a boundary, families don't transform. They adjust to the facts that held. The eldest who thrives on momentum hunts for the next storyline. The younger who finally drew a line learns that maintenance is power. If you've ever waited for an apology to make you whole, here's the truth that helped me. A functioning plan heals faster than a perfect speech. Brooke posted a carousel from the hospital gala, red carpet, board members, a caption about community. No mention of the venue that never existed for her. She texted me a single photo from Friday, the quick hug by the Oaks. "Cute. Mind if I share?" I sent a thumbs up and a link to the foundation donation page. She didn't thank me. She didn't need to. The oxygen had moved. Control looks for rooms that echo back. Clear plans leave it with nothing to stick to. Connor followed up with a note about spring dates and asked for the contact at our printer. Ordinary, respectful, useful. That's how systems reset when a spectacle fails to launch. Mom invited us for coffee. She tried to tidy the narrative. 2 big nights for the family. But then she did something small that mattered. She asked for the hotel block email so she could see how I'd structured it. "I should have backed you sooner," she said, eyes on her mug. Dad handed me an envelope with the word deposit in the memo line. I didn't cash it. I didn't argue. I put it in a drawer and kept my weekend intact in my head. Friday welcome, Saturday wedding, Sunday breakfast tacos on paper plates. Grandma slipped me a card with a recipe for lemon bars and a note in ballpoint. Saturdays are for people who book them. Simple. True. Monday, real life returned like tide. At work, my boss congratulated me in the hallway and asked for my timeline template because "You run a tight ship." It made me laugh, but the archetype fit. The easygoing daughter had turned structure into a boundary, not a performance. That's the version of me I wanted to keep. On my lunch break, I mailed the last thank you cards and dropped one at the hospital foundation with a handwritten line about Friday's toast. It felt good to invest in something that didn't argue back. That night, Evan and I sat on the balcony with grocery store Prosecco again. Same view, different weather inside me. I wrote our date on the back of a printed photo, October 19th, Charleston, and slid it into a frame. You think triumph is loud. It's usually quiet paperwork and people who showed up. The date had been a tug-of-war for weeks. In the end, it was a day we lived, on schedule, with witnesses who ate cake and danced. If you've ever been managed by someone else's urgency, take this. You don't need their permission to keep what's yours. You need a contract, a checklist, and the nerve to press send. I did. The calendar didn't blink. The river kept moving. And I kept my day.